While I was there, I sat going to try to look him up. And I found some of the people with her name. And no time they were just a reception.
After taking her down house. More than one.
Toby was out of the memories.
One night, we were waiting for a banana car to come in. So the car was really quite late in getting in. So my dad says, "Come on, Tony, we'll go out."
Goodman, the managing editor.
So
He came out of retirement to act as the managing editor. Being an old-time Labor's man.
I don't know where we went.
They have a small It's a learning kind of group. They learn to read Torah. They come every day.
Magazine, I remember a few years ago when
You better. My better side. There's no such thing as my age.
He's home, but he's in Florida. He has a Florida home.
Who's that?
William Billy Seltz.
Sells.
He's got a home in Florida.
Oh, that's me.
No, I'm staying with Sonny. Wait a minute.
Oh, I know Bill Sells. He used to be a partner of Irv Sherman's.
And just give us a few words as to what you remember about Talmud Torah. You probably did the same thing I did. He tried. Well, that's at the end.
Bruchim Abayim. I have to steal from Polly because last night she opened up with what I consider the premier opening, Hine Matov Umanayim, Shevat Achim Gam Yachad. And it's such a pleasure just to be amongst relatives and friends. As I looked over our mishpacha and the Berman mishpacha, I think we're about 40% of the whole group. I belong to the class of 26, and as I looked over some of the information, I think we were a unique class, in that no other class that I could find contributed 2 presidents to the Talmud Torah. And I think that says something. The fact is that Davy and I were members of the same class and spent loads and loads of time together. But, you know, my father told me that, and he told my uncle, Dr. Gordon, who was then the director, he said, Leo, you're going to have to go to Talmud Torah if it takes till you get married. And I missed by 2 years. And that wasn't because I got married early. you know, in our class, it was a large class, and we have a pretty fair representation of the class here. And in that class, there was Benny Bruchen and Herschel Behrman, who never finished, and myself. And there was always a contest to see who would get kicked out of class more. The big problem between Herschel and myself was that both of us lived on the south side at that time. We had to take the streetcar together. So if I got kicked out, I had to wait for him, and if he got kicked out, he had to wait for me. But we managed, and Benny and I finished, and Herschel, for one reason or another, never completed. But I think that Talmud Torah had probably an unbelievable influence on my life. Mar Halitzer and Mar Gelb were two of the finest people that I think I have ever met. And they were both wonderful, wonderful teachers. There were others, but no two that could hold a candle to these two men. And they both had a very significant impression on whatever happened to me from those days. And this is not the first time I've made that comment. I've made it many, many times. And I'm grateful to them, both of them gone now, for what they contributed to my life. Talmud Torah was a great influence. We had great times together. Bonnie Gordon and Bonnie Gordon-Seltz and Herschel Kaufman and Ralph Behrman and myself we lived on the south side, on the west side. Herschel lived out south, but we all took the streetcar together. I think there was an old saying, Avu kinachap on a 6th Avenue streetcar. And we waited on the corner of Emerson and 6th Avenue North. We went into the Levitman Pharmacy and the Eisenstock Grocery, and there was that herring barrel there, if you recall, and somehow or other, anybody that came in always went to the bottom of the barrel. I could never figure out why. But those were, you know, I think my greatest impressions on Talmud Torah were what happened to me, not in the class, but around the class. Uncle George, Dr. Gordon, of course, also lived on the south side. He lived on 17th and Portland, and I lived on 31st and DuPont. And occasionally he would offer to take me home. And what I remember particularly about him, aside from the personal relationship that we had, was the fact that he always had a cigar in his mouth, constantly. And we'd be riding along, and every once in a while he'd roll up the window and spit at it. He thought he had it open, but it wasn't. And then there was, sometimes I would get a ride with Dr. Ellison. He had an office on Hennepin and about 12th or 13th. And he would take me there, and then I'd pick up the streetcar and go there. And I mean, these were thoroughly wonderful and nice people, all of them. And their allegiance to the Talmud Torah was something that I really never understood until I got to be considerably older. And then, of course, there was Sammy's father, M.D. Mervis, who also was a Verbrent. And I remember that after I was married and I was working, he'd come up to the office and say, Leo, let's go schnorring. So he would take me schnorring with him. I would drive him, and I learned quite a bit from him, believe me. And I mean, these are people that all had made a wonderful contribution to your existence. Obviously, my father at the same time. Somebody here had a sansan. I don't know from which year it was, but there was my dad's picture and Ben Lifson. I mean, these were the Ben Weisberg and Millie and Ray's father, and Dr. Gordon and Max Kaplan. And I mean, these are the balabatim of our community at that time. And I remember all of them with great relish. Ben Bloom, I suppose there were others that I knew, but they were just wonderful people all of whom we looked up to. And maybe one of the effects that they had is that we hoped at the same time that maybe there would be others who would look up to us and try to follow the example that they set. At any rate, I'm not going to take much any more time. I can only tell you that Talmud Torah had a tremendous influence on my life in spite of the fact that I hated to go. It was awful. Uncle George at one time said to my dad, "Why waste his time and your money?" And, but my dad was persistent, and I did manage to complete high school. I never did get to Beit HaMidrash, but I'm not sure that if I had gone, that it would have done Beit HaMidrash any good. But I tell you, it provided me with a foundation for my Hebrew, which is relatively fluent today. I get along extremely well in Israel. And so that people wonder where a Native American got their Hebrew. And I tell them that I got it at the Minneapolis Talmud Torah. At least they got the foundation there. And Louis Shore was another one of those people. I remember at one time there was Sam Salkin and Lou Shore and myself and one or two others. I can't remember who it was. We'd meet on a Saturday afternoon after we finished work, and we'd speak Hebrew. And these are things that I remember with great relish. I can only tell you that I hope that the Talmud Torah has had as great an influence on you as it has had on me. And thank you very much.